The mind is capable of creating universes within it. When these projections begin, they can come as thoughts or stories. No matter how vast or insignificant, they hold parts of the human experience within them. This collection of dreams and nightmares from an entire species of individually unique but structurally similar minds is often why myself, among others, are so drawn into horror media. As I get older, I realize more so how it taps into fears that we lack understanding of until we confront them head on. As our own global society edges closer to unlocking the mysteries of death and an artificial bypassing of it, it's all the more time to understand the unique warnings and fears displayed in games like SOMA or Signalis, and even non-traditional horror games like Dark Souls or The Outer Wilds. We need to understand the nightmare of eternal life in horror games before it becomes a reality in our lives. My name is Virtual Resonance, and exploring these shadows can be lonely, even harrowing at times. Consider subscribing so we don't have to go through the abyss alone. But to understand and navigate this darkness, we have to turn back the wheels of time to when the earliest written ideas of eternity came into our collective consciousness. In ancient Mesopotamian and Sumerian belief, we find some of the earliest written concepts of the afterlife. While many of us in Western society grew up with grand ideas of going to a heavenly place and spending eternity, one of the largest collections of stories that reflected the thoughts, moralities, and ideas of the ancients tells a much different story. The Epic of Gilgamesh described our eternal nature and physical mortality as a bleak inevitability. Not only were mortals alive to serve the gods alone, but we also had no ability to change the outcome of our afterlife. In their minds, the afterlife was not endless torture or a heavenly abode, but a dark and shadowy version of this life we currently exist in. Specifically, we see it referred to as Urkala, or the House of Dust, where the dead physically exist forever in darkness. Perhaps a remnant of this ancient bleak thought process came into play when From Software was developing the lore and ideas that created the Soulsborne series, but specifically Dark Souls. Because like an archetypal pattern that exists somewhere deep inside us, Dark Souls explores a world where death transmutes those consumed by it into a hollowed version of their former selves. These hollow entities were humans who continue to live in death, having gone through the process of losing their individual identities only to become a violent husk of what they once were. Within this world, there's no way to escape entropy. It's a persistent reality that is unavoidable for the souls trapped in a constant state of life and death. While not verbatim of what the Mesopotamians believed, it holds a similarity that cannot be ignored. The connection deepens when you start to learn that the Mesopotamians had a large amount of respect and reverence for the dead, leaving them food and drink to honor and aid them in their afterlife. You see, in Mesopotamian belief, if the deceased was not given proper rites or they were forgotten about entirely because of a lack of descendants, they would begin to starve and thirst. As time passed by, they could become restless and malicious, causing all sorts of terror on the living. Throughout time, that divine spark that held the deceased personality would fade as their anchors to the living world diminished. Just as reflected in current life, it only takes a few generations for all of us to be but forgotten. In the end, the spirits would become part of an indistinct, collective ancestral being. We can almost see this being displayed in the culmination of Dark Souls. You could look at the Dreg Heap, where because of the Age of Fire being reignited, the great kingdoms throughout time are being crushed into an ashen mountain of ruin. The Age of Fire is what originally introduced duality into the world, creating both life and death. Yet the refusal of letting the embers of the age run cold and resisting the coming age of darkness continually causes the entropy to never end. Though just like in the modern era, ancient beliefs would shift throughout time and between different cultures, the concepts of eternal life extended a sense of hope to humanity. No longer did we want to just exist forever statically, all while fading with time. We needed to have weight, and our choices in this life needed to matter. But to break that cycle of belief, a new one had to be created. However, this rejuvenated cycle of hope came with its own new set of consequences. Hinduism is widely regarded as the world's oldest living religion, starting around 15 to 1200 BCE, and to this day has over 1.2 billion followers. While many people reduce Hinduism down to a set of spiritual practices, there is a rich history, and like Mesopotamian religion, it has a true pantheon of gods and goddesses that exist. It also has some very interesting concepts of life, death, and rebirth. But to understand it further, we will have to look at a spiritual concept called samsara. Within Hindu thought process, the soul is an eternal component of our nature and cannot be destroyed. They believe that when the physical body dies, the soul retains and carries the blueprint of its previous life into a new vessel. Each move you made throughout your life held weight, and much like the scientific concept of cause and effect, the soul has karmic repercussions. Each seed you sow will leave a mark on your soul and impact your eventual rebirth. This process through which the soul goes through in hopes to purify itself is a cyclical one. However, there is an end goal. To reach this goal and ultimate liberation from samsara, a soul has to detach from its ego, the material world, and its reoccurring attachments and suffering that the vessel endures. This spiritual idea has permeated culture since its inception, influencing everything from music to psychology, and even games like Silent Hill 2 and Signalis. Rose Engine, the development team behind Signalis, whether intending to or not, successfully encapsulated the idea of samsara within Elster's journey perfectly, showing once again that these concepts ring in our human consciousness throughout time. As Elster, we journey through the Sierpinski station and start to see evidence of a loop that has occurred. This is the story of reincarnation told through the lens of replicas, or androids that were created from the template of human minds. As you come to find out, the loop keeps occurring because Elster is in search of a girl named Ariane with immense spiritual power called bioresonance. From the very beginning of the game, we see enigmatic visions of Ariane begging Elster to keep her promise. By the end of our journey, we see that it's been centuries of Elster living countless lives and always failing to keep this promise to Ariane. For all intents and purposes, within the story of Signalis, Elster is cursed to live forever because of her attachment. She loves Ariane, and the promise would mean letting go of that attachment, allowing her to finally die. Nevertheless, like we mentioned, the end goal is to be liberated from samsara, and within Hinduism, this means breaking through the veil of the physical world and becoming one with the true nature of reality, also known as Brahman. This form of existence is pure consciousness without form or limitations, where duality ends and one is not separated from another. The self becomes one with the observer and the underlying fabric of everything. Within the considerably best ending of Signalis, Elster finally does keep her promise to Ariane, which allows both of them to be free from the illusionary world that Ariane's immense bioresonant power created. They break free from the false reality of never-ending eternal life and death, finally able to rejoin the infinite. This, while still in some sense is a bleak outcome and not a feel-good story, it takes a cerebral look into much of what humanity is likely yet to face. While these ancient teachings reveal the agony of living eternally within reincarnation, it's in our increasingly technocratic world where many no longer seek a way out of the cycle at all. Instead, they seek a way to create a digital Elysium to keep the ego intact for eternity. So this is where the essay gets interesting because a lot of this chapter is still a story being written. Like many of the prophets and philosophers before us, we only see the ideas and revelations of what is yet to come. I want to be clear, this is not a conspiratorial video. It's all very real, and if you have not yet, I would encourage you to learn more about it than what this video could ever even hope to explain. You see, we live in a new age, and we're witnessing the birth of a technocratic religion before our eyes. This new form of spirituality is shared among many of the Silicon Valley billionaires, the same ones that created the systems that make what you're watching right now a possibility. The culmination of their beliefs could be summed up in a simplistic concept called transhumanism, which is the idea and goal of humans merging with machines, or even completely abandoning the flesh altogether for synthetic bodies, so the mind could effectively live for eternity. This is due to their view on the mind being a field of data and information. We all have a neural network that exists in our mind, creating effectively what we would say is the you and I. In fact, the entire concept of ego in general could be broken down to simple electrical signals and data-based information flowing within our individual brains. It's for this reason that AI research, technology, and even eventually artificial brains and brain-computer interfaces use and base their operating methods on neural networks. And this is where one of my favorite horror games asks a fantastic question. If we even upload our minds to machines, is it really still you and I? In 2015, Frictional Games stepped away from the world of amnesia and into the science fiction dystopian tale of Simon Jarrett with their game, SOMA. The opening sequence is likely what made most of us who played it buy in so quickly to the concept, as Simon is recovering from a brain injury and is scheduled to get a brain scan to look at the progress of his condition. Immediately following the scan, it's like Simon is transported to an alien world, but it's actually just one built on the machinations of flawed men. Immediately we start to ponder if this is just a malfunction of his damaged brain, yet it's not long before we start putting the pieces together. This is a version of Simon that was captured the day that the brain scan occurred. It's a digital ghost created from a template of the real physical Simon's mind. Yet this digital version of him is just as real and as conscious as the physical one who died around a century ago. While the original Simon had a life after the brain scan and an inevitable death, this version of Simon is in a mostly cybernetic body and tasked with the goal of launching something called the Ark into space. This Ark holds the digital scans of all the remaining human minds in existence. Frictional is very intentional with the names of their thought-provoking games, and SOMA is no different, as it literally means body in Greek. This is also where a majority of the horror is driven from within the game, making us question what does it mean to be human and what is the mind's relationship with the body. It asks a fundamental question about if we were to undergo this process, would the person who's observing this video right now be the person that finishes out our physical life and dies, or the one that continues to live forever in a mechanical prison? The only way this version of us would know which one is after we make the choice at the fork in the road. SOMA takes the concept of transhumanism and eternal life, creating a twist that I'm not sure if the tech billionaires truly have an answer to. And even if they did, and we successfully made the transition to an immortal machine, would we still maintain the same status that we always have within the hierarchy of the current system? A product to be owned and sold by the elite. One of the key figures and financial backers at the heart of the current techno-spiritual movement is former co-founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel. Not only has Thiel had his hand in backing much of the AI technological booms within the last 10 years, but he also helped co-found Palantir Technologies. For those who may not be aware of our current climate of mass global surveillance, Palantir collects data from just about every separated system you can imagine. This includes financial institutions, social media platforms, police reports, and real-time surveillance systems, just to name a few. All this data acts as a digital map of our behavioral patterns, and AI creates a predictive model of our lives based on our own digital footprint. Palantir has also done a great job of operating under the idea of order, security, and a goal that we assume would mean making society safer. However, due to the flawed and greedy nature of man, the data it collects is sold to anyone who is willing to pay. Most notably, as of late, is the American government. The software that Palantir has produced is devoid of feeling. It simply has a programmed goal that it attempts to achieve. This is eerily similar to the fictional WoW system within SOMA. The goal of this warden unit is to preserve human life, a seemingly noble goal until you start to realize that eternal life may be somewhat horrific depending on the quality of that life. If a system devoid of feeling only sees the preservation of life as the goal, then human consciousness trapped in a rotting machine begging for death is just the same as humans within an ark or an eternal digital paradise. Unfortunately for Simon, this leads to a similar fate as Mesopotamian souls, existing forever in darkness. These ideas of transhumanism in and of itself isn't purely new, as it has a shared biology with medieval alchemy and Gnosticism, which heavily regards physical reality as illusionary and seeks a process of transformation and transcendence of it. The key difference is the ancient practitioners of these philosophies sought after a spiritual escape, whereas the modern post-God technocrat is building a physical one. This is where organizations like Praxis becomes much more frightening. You see, Praxis isn't just a business venture. It's an ideology aimed at creating something called sovereign states, or also called network states. These are intended to be physical places, specifically new cities, built outside the jurisdiction of traditional governments. This is where the elite can be free from the ethical and biological constraints of what is now considered the old world. And as of recently, it's a reality that many are coming to realize, while seeming conspiratorial, has largely been happening behind closed doors for decades, if not even longer. However, it appears that the elite want a day where it no longer is considered taboo. In the context of this essay, Praxis is like a laboratory for the entire nightmare. It's a real-life attempt to build a city like the ones we see in the authoritarian world of Signalis or the upcoming game Ontos. It's a place where the goal is to engineer the next steps of human existence. In Signalis, we see the end result of a dystopian and authoritarian future where human templates are used to create replicas. It shows us the process of degradation of a person's persona that occurs when their mind is fragmented and used over and over again, reprinted. It reflects the loss of the original divine spark throughout the passage of time and reduces humanity, and replicas for that matter, to just becoming an immortal tool for an authoritarian regime. When we look at Thiel's interest in AI and the sovereignty of an individual, we see this similar drive and concept. However, this vision is radically different for the everyday person, or the managed, as he would call us, and the tech elite. In his vision, the goal for the elite is not necessarily to abandon the body completely, but reverse engineer the flaw of aging and death through biological technology. This brings us to Ontos, the upcoming project and official spiritual successor to SOMA from Frictional Games. While we currently only have fragments of information, the focus is on a lunar facility named Samsara, and this tells us a lot about where the direction of the narrative will go. In fact, it's a direct callback to the Hindu Wheel of Rebirth we discussed earlier. But this time, the wheel is an actual institution or hotel on the lunar base. We can imagine that the horror will likely revolve around the management of the soul or psyche, considering Ontos itself means being or to be when it's translated from Greek. So the concept that Frictional is exploring, at least at first glance, looks remarkably similar to a praxis-like entity. It's an institutionalization of our existence and consciousness. Peter Thiel has often talked about three possible outcomes for our species. Armageddon, which would be a total collapse into world war and environmental death. The Antichrist, which is his term for a global high-tech state where a centralized AI hive mind enforces a perfect type of peace. And then his last option is the exit, where the elite use technology to break away from this collective entirely. And this is the intersection of the modern technocratic religion and the nightmare of eternal life. The goal of Palantir, Praxis, and the Silicon Valley elite isn't to save your life from death. It's to index it and prepare it for the convergence of this Antichrist system, as Peter Thiel would say, a finalized, managed human race that lives forever under an authoritarian architecture where we have no power or autonomy. It is truly a futuristic, biblical interpretation of hell on earth. It's a world where the gift of immortality is actually a permanent curse. They are currently building a world where the shadows we cast with our data is harvested and compiled into a global surveillance software, a central nervous system of an AI hive mind that knows you better than you know yourself. When the solution to death is finally granted to us via synthetic husks our ghosts can inhibit, will we accept it? Meanwhile, the elites or sovereign individuals use the wealth that they generated by the very system to fund their own exit, transcending flesh and machine alike to become the observers or Brahmin to our eternal loop, where we are never able to rest and are constantly monitored by a system that never lets us exit the House of Silicon. From the ancient Mesopotamians' bleak view of the House of Dust to the modern billionaire's dread of the grave, everything we've discussed so far stems from the same core impulse. It's the fear of the light of our consciousness returning to the void from which it emerged. We seek religions, build neural networks, and tell stories about eternal life in a desperate hope to keep the embers of our ego from going dark. But if horror games like SOMA and Signalis teach us the nightmare of resisting the end, Outer Wilds teaches us the beauty of accepting it. In Outer Wilds, you're trapped in a 22-minute time loop, witnessing the death of your entire solar system over and over again. At first, you approach it like a problem that has to be solved. It's a glitch in the universe that you have to fix. You search for a way to survive, attempting to find a mechanical answer to save your world from the inevitable pool of entropy. From the beginning of the game, you're introduced to the idea of an ancient civilization called the Nomai. In the entire game, you're trying to uncover the mystery of what happened to them, all while trying to figure out how to beat this cycle of entropy. But as you dig deeper into the ruins of the solar system, your perspective on the cycle of life shifts from one of resistance to one of profound acceptance. As your journey continues, you begin following the footsteps of this ancient civilization, and you come to find out that they weren't looking for immortality. They weren't building a digital escape either. They were looking for something called the Eye of the Universe, a place of total probability where a new world could be born from the ashes of an old one, a complete contrast to the nightmare that we've explored so far. The game even taps into the ideas that we've talked about with transhumanism, with its DLC focusing on a group within the universe called the Alfolk, who escape death through digital archives, terrified of the end of their civilization. But the Nomai understood a fundamental truth. For the next age to begin, the embers of the Age of Fire have to finally run cold. They didn't seek to become sovereign individuals presiding over a dead and decaying world. They chose to be catalysts for creation, for a world that they knew they would never see. The entirety of the Outer Wilds shows us that we're not meant to be digital ghosts archived in a server or hollows that are consumed by ash, but we're meant to be the divine spark that lights the way for whatever comes next. The nightmare of eternal life only ends when we realize that death isn't the enemy of life. It's the very thing that gives it weight and ultimate meaning. I know that exploring the shadow is kind of a melancholic process, and today especially, it seems a little more somber than normal. But there is a strange comfort in knowing that the end is what makes this entire journey matter. And whether, it's the Mesopotamians leaving food for the dead or, just us sitting by a campfire as the sun goes into a supernova, we're all just trying to understand our place within this cycle of life and reality and eternity. My name's Virtual Resonance, and if you found some kind of value while exploring this abyss with me today, consider subscribing. We might be headed toward the void, but at least we have each other. I hope to see you in the next video.